Hi, this video explores Merc8or by acModules for VCV Rack. Merc8or lets you remap, rescale, invert, and asymmetrically saturate CV signals visually and without needing a calculator. Or put simply, Merc8or is a graphical attenuverter with a few extra bells and whistles. To get started, we're going to show how Merc8or can be used for 3 different purposes, all within the same track. We'll be using orb-SQ as our primary sequencer to drive both the chord progression and arpeggiations that our synth module will be playing. We'll take the drifting drone note out of orb-SQ into Merc8or and translate that into a 0 to 1 volt octave range so that we can choose a root note using chord for Roy. This is a basic transformation that could be done with any attenuverter. Next, we're going to take that same drone note and use Merc8or to transform it into a pattern selection in pick 6. This range is incredibly specific to choose only a few select patterns. Finally, we'll be taking the unfiltered note output from orb-SQ into our last Merc8or instance and driving the filter cutoff in our synth. We'll let the full range pass through and then see how Merc8or makes it easy to remap values on the fly. You can hear and see that as the drone note drifts from orb-SQ, both the root note and the patterns adjust based on the settings of their Merc8ors. If I wasn't talking so much, you might have also been able to hear that some of the notes from the synth were barely audible. The full range of the CV controlling the filter cutoff closes the filter a little too much at the low end, and the high end is just a little too sharp for my liking. We can use the output knobs in Merc8or to quickly dial in the range that sounds good to us. Since Merc8or is remapping the incoming signals to our output range, we're getting the full variation from orb-SQ, now just focused on a particular part of our cutoff frequency range, all without touching anything on our synth. That's pretty good, but maybe just a little bit more. As you can see, Merc8or makes it really easy to dial in the CV output ranges that you need or want, but it can also adjust the input ranges. Let's take a look at an example. Here we have an oscillator running in the audible frequency range. Normal audio voltage levels are between -5 and +5 volts, so our Merc8or instance is just passing that through untouched. As we adjust oscillator and Merc8or settings, we'll see the results on the scope. Merc8or clamps incoming voltage signals to the range that is set, so things get interesting when we start to adjust that range. As we pull the high input voltage down, our output remains at the full 5 volts, but the waveform starts to flatten out. We are asymmetrically saturating our waveform. Depending upon where we set it, the results can be subtle or very extreme, and of course we can do the same thing on the low voltage side. Now let's hear what this sounds like. We'll start by adjusting the high voltage input level. The effect is subtle, so let's start bringing up the low voltage level. As we do this, you'll hear and see that our waveform has become more like a square waveform and has grown louder, We'll quickly adjust the volume of our other tracks to compensate. Parts of our waveform that fall within the range set in Merc8or still come through. Those frequencies are just amplified. You can hear that as we move through the wavetables. And that's a quick look at some of the features of Merc8or. Thanks for watching.